A groundbreaking and shocking new study finds more than half the cosmetics sold in the U.S. and Canada likely contain high levels of toxic industrial compounds. They have been linked to serious health conditions, including cancer and reduced birth rate. The lead researcher for the study is Professor Graham Peaslee. He is with the University of Notre Dame, and he is joining us live now with more. Good morning to you. Good to have you on this morning. A lot of people interested in this study, both men and women. So let's start with the findings. You tested more than 230 commonly used cosmetics. Let's take a look at part of the breakdown right now. What you found is 56% of foundation and eye products, 48% of lip products, 47% of mascaras, all contained high levels of something called fluorine. So tell us, what is fluorine and how bad is it?
Well, that's a element which is found in lots of products, but it's when man-made, we refer to them as a category of compounds called PFAS, per and polyfluorinated alkyl substances. That mouthful is a acronym that stands for a whole family of these chemicals that are used to impart water resistance, or sometimes they help the spreadability, the emulsion properties of these products. And they're put into chemicals. They should be labeled if they're going to be used, because they are forever chemicals. They last forever in the environment for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And they're also known to bioaccumulate and to be toxic. Several of them have been identified with toxicity, and the rest of them are likely to be toxic as well.
Wow.
And so we're worried about these as a class of chemicals.
Yeah, and we've all been using them for years. So let's break down the study even more. I thought this was interesting, because some of the highest levels of this you found were actually in waterproof mascara, as much as 82%, and long-lasting lipsticks, maybe those lipstick stains, 62%. So first of all, why is this placed in these products to begin with?
Well, the two that you just mentioned were the two new categories we hadn't looked at before, anybody had looked at before. These liquid lips and the waterproof mascaras are designed to be waterproof. To last. You don't want to come out of the swimming pool looking like a raccoon. Those are the types of things that are marketed as a performance enhancement, and we believe the fluorochemicals are being used to make them more waterproof. It is one of the world's best waterproofing agents, so that's where you could actually get some function from it. There may also be unintentional use, in the sense that might come in as a sort of a byproduct of something else that was used that had a fluorochemical in it. We found several, when we took a subset of 29 to look at them in specifics to see which PFAS were being used, several of them had low levels, which were probably unintentional, but more than 20 of those 29 had in fairly high levels of these chemicals. And the important part was they weren't labeled.
Wow. Okay, that's my next question to you, because I have my makeup bag here full of lipstick that I'm pulling out, and they just come like this. And I'm looking, and it doesn't really tell me anything about the ingredients. So that brings me to my next question. How do we know if a product contains this?
That's the scary part of the study, because we went through and looked at all the products. The study done in Europe a few years ago had been done on European cosmetics. They left out a couple of these categories, but they did look at many of them, and they found 20 boxes that were labeled with fluorochemicals, and they found them within the product. We couldn't find anything that was labeled with fluorochemicals. There's some mention of Teflon in about 8% of the products, but and that is a PFAS, but the rest of them weren't labeled. And of those 29, actually only one of them had a mention of Teflon, and none of the rest of them mentioned any PFAS whatsoever. And yet we know in at least 20 of those products that there were high levels that showed some intentional use of PFAS. So that means that the manufacturers didn't know or didn't advise the consumer that they were in there.
Okay, so basically some of them aren't even labeled. So if we even knew what to look for, that we wouldn't be able to say, oh, I can identify this because it says right there, because that's not happening. So that brings me to my next question then. Can these products be traced to an increase in cancer rates at all? Specifically, the increase in breast cancer rates that we have seen, since women are the ones who wear cosmetics the most?
Well, we can't link any particular chemical to any particular cancer very easily. We can show statistical likelihoods and things like that. And these chemicals are known, several of them are known to cause cancers, but we don't have a direct linkage between these chemicals. So don't worry instantly about getting cancers from these chemicals, but it's something to be concerned about, because you have an exposure possibility to these chemicals. And so we'd like to, be aware what's in there, and we'd urge the manufacturers to come up with some greener alternatives, things that don't have these chemicals that still are waterproof. And there are clearly some that are, So it's just a question of labeling the ones which are and aren't, and I think the consumer will take care of the rest.
So from what I'm hearing from what you're telling me, is it safer to stay away from some of these long-lasting, like the waterproof mascaras, the long-lasting lip stain? If you stay away from those types of products, is it less likely it's going to have some of these chemicals in it?
That's correct. There's a likelihood, but some of even the foundations that you wouldn't expect had treated PFAS chemicals in them. And so I think it's better, and this is the unfortunate part, is that the consumer can't identify them from the labels. Even those websites that tell you which ones are safe or not are basing it on what's on the label and not what's on testing. So the manufacturers have to specify that they don't want these chemicals in there when they build it or when they create it, and then we have to check it occasionally. And those types of tests can be done commercially. So that's what we're urging the industry to do, to label these things and then to remove.
Let's talk about that. So what needs to be done to stop this? I know Congress is working to make some changes, but what do you think needs to happen immediately? And should these products be removed from shelves?
I think the issue is, and this also goes back to one of your earlier points, Sylvia, that it's not just the wearers of these cosmetics, because where does most of that cosmetic go? Well, it should go on the lips or the eyes, which is a danger for ingestion or going through the tear ducts or through the skin even. But the other worry is that where does 90% of that mascara go? You wash it down the drain at the end of the day, or you leave the cap off one night and you throw a whole bottle away. That's going into the landfill, these are forever chemicals. They'll end up in our drinking water. So everybody, even the non-cosmetic wearers, will be drinking this in a few years as it comes through the water supply. So that's the double whammy with these chemicals. So we would like to urge the industry to get to safer chemicals in their formulations. And there are plenty of options out there. So it's just a question of being aware of them. I'm not sure they all are. And then making sure that we're trying to use the safer alternatives or letting the consumer choose at least.
Sure. Well, Professor Graham Peaslee with Notre Dame, thanks so much. Very interesting information. It's making me think twice. It's not going to make me stop wearing makeup, but maybe I'm going to think about what I'm putting on. And I'm sure that there are future plans for you guys to do even more. So we appreciate you coming on and sharing this information with me. Have a great day.
Thanks for having me, Sylvia.